Do you realize what you've just lost? The investor's shout hit the glass hard enough to make the window tremble. He slammed the door and the frame rattled like it might come apart. The contract, her only shot, lay on the floor, torn in two. She sat rigid, stone-cold with her dreams. Colleagues slid their eyes away, someone pretended to shuffle papers, someone else tapped a pen like nothing had happened. Inside her head a storm roared. Where now? What next? How do you survive a humiliation like this? Her fingers still clutched a jagged scrap when one thought cut through the noise, wild, impossible, searing. She lifted her gaze and locked with the man in the corner, the only one not looking away. He watched in silence with a curious half-smile, like he knew something she didn't. That look promised the real story hadn't even started. "Pick it up," the office manager whispered, eyes flicking to the security camera. "You don't want this on Slack." She bent, grabbed the torn halves, and felt her phone vibrate. "Unknown number, you're not done. Meet me in 40 minutes. Same block, coffee truck." She hadn't given anyone her new number. "Don't make a scene," a senior PM murmured, already texting. She straightened, pulse drumming. The calendar on the wall still showed last month's investor day, her pitch circled in red. A post-it clung beneath it, 48 hours. 48 for what? Runway? A lease? The thought burned. She stepped into the corridor's chill. A delivery cart squeaked past, boxes labeled with her startup's name, labels she'd paid for, boxes that might never ship. As the elevator doors slid open, the man from the corner appeared beside her, calm, hands in pockets. "You'll want to keep that," he said, nodding at the contract halves. "Proof matters when people rewrite history." The doors closed on the word history. Street air hit like caffeine. Sirens in the distance, a busker's guitar, grinders hissing from the food truck row. Her calloused thumb hovered over the text thread, "Coffee truck. Which one?" Then a second ping, new message, no name, a photo of her pitch slide with a red X and 3 words, "Not the product." She cut across traffic, horns flaring. The coffee truck with the crooked menu board sat by the old brick freight door. A paper cup waited on the ledge with her name scrawled right, Elena, the uncommon spelling. The barista shrugged. "Guy paid already. Said you'd be mad if it wasn't extra hot." Footsteps behind. She didn't turn. "You should know," a voice said softly, "he didn't walk because of price. He walked because of timing." She faced the speaker, a woman in a weathered Stanford hoodie, eyes sharp, phone face down. "Who are you?" Elena asked. The woman smiled without warmth. "Somebody who remembers what it's like to be told no 27 times. Elena's phone buzzed again, a calendar invite she hadn't created, tonight 9 p.m., South Pier Storage, Unit 17. No sender. No address line. Just a pin drop and a title, "Return the Seed." The hoodie woman glanced at the screen and nodded as if she'd expected it. "You going?" Elena looked from the torn contract to the cup warming her palms, to the pin blinking like a heartbeat on the map. She didn't have answers. She had heat, noise, a city that didn't care, and a door she could choose to open. "Yeah," she said, voice steadying. "I'm going." And for the first time today, the ground felt like it was moving in her favor, even if she couldn't yet see where it led. Elena's sneakers slapped against the wet pavement, the torn contract shoved into her bag like contraband. The city around her buzzed with neon and exhaust, but her focus was locked on the blinking pin on her phone, South Pier Storage, Unit 17. Each block closer raised the questions higher: who set this up, why her, what did return the seed even mean? She ducked into a corner store for cover. A TV over the counter blared financial news. The same investor who had humiliated her was already being praised for cutting dead weight from his portfolio. Elena's jaw tightened. Dead weight. The cashier handed her change, eyes darting toward the bag at her side as if sensing the weight of what she carried. She left before he could say anything. At the pier, the night air was sharper, salt cutting her lungs. Rusted doors lined the warehouse row. Unit numbers peeled like old stickers. 17, a single bulb flickered above it. She reached for the handle, then froze. Voices inside. "She doesn't know yet," a man said. "Better that way," replied a woman. "If she realizes too soon, she won't play her part." Her stomach clenched. Play her part? Elena stepped back, heart pounding so loud she feared it would give her away. The voices stopped. Silence, thick and heavy. Then, metal scraping. The door creaked open. Looking for something? The man from the office corner stood there, expression unreadable. Behind him, the hoodie woman leaned against a stack of crates, arms crossed. Elena swallowed hard. "Why am I here? You think today was about rejection?" His voice was calm, deliberate. "It was a test. And you passed." "I lost everything." Her voice cracked, half fury, half disbelief. He smiled faintly. "No. You lost an illusion. What comes next, if you're strong enough, can't be bought or signed on paper." The hoodie woman tossed her a folder, thick with papers and scribbled notes. "This isn't about your pitch," she said. "It's about whether you can survive what's coming." Elena flipped it open. Inside were photos, her, walking into meetings, leaving offices, sitting in cafes. Dates, times, even what she wore. Her skin went cold. "Why are you following me?" "Because," the man said, stepping closer, "your story is bigger than you think. And someone out there will do anything to stop it." Elena's breath caught. Fear tangled with adrenaline. Every instinct screamed to run, but her legs refused. Instead, she tightened her grip on the folder. "Then tell me what I'm supposed to do." The man's smile sharpened. "Not yet. First, you have to decide if you're ready to fight for it." The bulb above them flickered again, casting shadows across his face. For the first time that day, Elena realized she wasn't trapped in her failure. She was standing at the entrance of something far more dangerous, and far more powerful. And once she stepped through, there would be no turning back. The folder shook in Elena's hands as pages slipped free, scattering across the dusty floor. One sheet caught her eye, an invoice with her company's logo, stamped paid, but she had never seen it before. The date was from last week. Her chest tightened. Someone had been moving money under her name. "Where did this come from?" she demanded, voice sharp. The man didn't answer. The hoodie woman leaned closer. "Not every enemy shows their face in the boardroom." Before Elena could press further, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. Heavy, deliberate. The man snapped the folder shut and shoved it back to her. "You need to leave. Now." The door burst open, light from a passing truck slicing through the gloom. Two figures in tailored suits stepped in, their shoes clicking against the concrete. They didn't look like investors. They looked like debt collectors, or worse. One of them spoke, his voice smooth and cold. "Ms. Torres. You've been hard to reach." Elena froze. She had never seen him before, yet he said her name like he'd been repeating it for months. The hoodie woman muttered under her breath, "Too soon." The taller man reached into his coat and slid a photo across a crate, an image of Elena standing outside her apartment. "You should have answered our calls. This isn't about business anymore. It's about survival." Her pulse hammered in her ears. She glanced at the man from the office corner, searching for a signal, but his face was unreadable. "What do you want from me?" she managed. The suited man tilted his head. "Not here. Tomorrow morning. Dockside Cafe." Bring the folder. Alone. He tapped the photo once, then tucked it back into his coat. Don't test us. And just like that, they were gone, their footsteps fading into the night. Elena's knees almost buckled. She pressed her back to the cold metal wall, clutching the folder like a shield. The hoodie woman whispered fiercely, "You can't meet them. They'll eat you alive." But the man in the corner finally spoke, his words slow and deliberate. "She has to. If she doesn't face them, they'll never stop." Two paths stretched before her, one laced with fear, the other with fire. She didn't know which to take, only that standing still would destroy her faster than any enemy. As she left the warehouse, the city lights blurred in her vision. Somewhere between the salt air and the echo of those men's footsteps, a second storyline was born, not just about saving her dream, but about uncovering who had tied her name to debts she never made. And as the night bled into dawn, Elena realized one truth: her fight was no longer just about business. It was about reclaiming her name before someone else erased it forever. Elena barely slept. By the time the sun broke through the skyline, she was already at Dockside Cafe, the folder gripped so tightly her knuckles turned white. The place was half empty, filled with the smell of burnt espresso and sea air drifting in through cracked windows. Every slam of a cup on the counter jolted her nerves. At exactly 9, the suited man from the warehouse walked in. He didn't rush. He moved like the room already belonged to him. Sliding into the booth opposite her, he smiled faintly. "You brought it." His eyes flicked to the folder before she could even nod. Elena pushed it across the table, heartbeat loud in her ears. He didn't open it. Instead, he tapped it once with his finger. "Do you even know what this is worth?" She tried to steady her voice. "Why don't you tell me?" He leaned closer. "Because if you knew, you wouldn't be sitting here." His tone was flat, almost amused. "This isn't about your little startup. It's about the people who bet against you and the ones who can't afford for you to win." The words hit like a slap. She opened her mouth to ask more, but he raised a hand, cutting her off. "You'll get pieces, never the whole picture. That's how the game works." A shadow moved behind him. Elena's stomach twisted, another figure was watching from the cafe entrance. The hoodie woman. Their eyes met, and for the briefest moment, Elena saw something raw there: fear. The woman mouthed a word Elena couldn't hear before slipping back into the crowd. The suited man noticed. His smile hardened. "She doesn't want you to know the truth." "Not yet." "What truth?" Elena shot back, frustration rising in her throat. He leaned so close she could smell the mint on his breath. "Ask yourself why that contract was really torn. It wasn't about your pitch. It was about who stood to lose if you succeeded." Her pulse spiked. She wanted to demand names, reasons, proof, but the barista slammed a tray, cups rattling, breaking the moment. By the time she turned back, the suited man was already standing, sliding his coat on. "Tomorrow night," he said, dropping a small card on the table. "Warehouse District. Unit 12. Bring no one. If you want answers, come alone." The bell above the cafe door rang as he left. Elena picked up the card, her hand trembling. There was no phone number, no address, just 3 words printed in bold black: "Follow the money." Her throat went dry. She stared at the empty booth, questions tearing at her from every side. The pieces were starting to connect, but not enough to see the full picture. And for every glimpse of an answer, a new question loomed even darker. She looked down at the folder in her lap, then at the card in her hand. Somewhere in those pages, in those cryptic instructions, was the reason her future had been ripped away. And the closer she got, the more dangerous it felt. Elena realized one thing: she wasn't just chasing opportunity anymore. She was walking straight into a war she didn't understand. Rain hammered the streets as Elena stood outside Warehouse District, Unit 12. The card's words echoed in her head, "Follow the money." Her palms were slick, not from the rain but from the weight of everything pressing down on her. She pushed the rusted door open. Inside, a single light swung overhead, illuminating rows of steel shelves stacked with boxes. A voice rose from the shadows. "You're late." It was the suited man, his tie loosened this time, eyes sharp as glass. He motioned to a crate. "Open it." She hesitated. "What's in there?" "Proof," he said flatly. "Or a death sentence, depending on what you do next." Her heart thudded as she pried the lid. Inside were files, receipts, transaction records. But what froze her was a photo clipped to the top, her signature on a document she had never seen. Beneath it, evidence of wire transfers, debts, offshore accounts. All tied to her name. "That's impossible," she whispered, breath shaking. The man smirked. "Paper doesn't lie. Someone's been using you. The question is, why?" Before she could respond, the back door slammed open. Two men in black jackets stormed in. Elena's stomach dropped, the same debt collector types from the pier. The suited man didn't flinch. He slipped something small into her hand and whispered, "Run." Her legs moved before her mind did. She sprinted down the dark aisle, the folder clutched to her chest. Shouts erupted behind her, boots pounding against concrete. She darted through a side door, out into the rain-soaked alley. A hand grabbed her arm, she jerked free, crashing into a puddle. Papers scattered across the street like broken feathers. Headlights flared. A van screeched to a stop inches from her. The driver's window rolled down. It was the hoodie woman. "Get in, now." Elena scrambled inside, chest heaving. The van tore forward, tires hissing on wet asphalt. The woman's knuckles were white on the wheel. "You think this is about your startup?" "No, Elena. You've stepped into something bigger. You're not just fighting for your company, you're fighting for your life." Elena clutched the papers to her chest, rain dripping from her hair. "Then tell me who's behind this," she shouted. But the woman shook her head, eyes locked on the road. "Not yet. If you knew, you might give up before you start." Elena's throat burned with frustration, fear, and fury. She wanted answers, needed them, but all she had was a folder of lies and enemies she couldn't name. Outside, the city blurred past, dark and merciless. And in that van, soaked and trembling, she realized this was no longer about proving herself. This was about survival, and if she failed, it wouldn't just cost her dream. It would cost her everything. The van screeched to a stop under a flickering streetlight. Elena's pulse was still racing, the folder clutched so tight her nails tore into the cardboard. The hoodie woman turned to her, jaw tight. "You need to understand, those files in your name? They're not mistakes. Someone wanted you buried under debt." Elena's throat tightened. "Who? Tell me who forged them." The woman hesitated, eyes darting toward the side mirror as if expecting shadows to follow. "Not here. Not yet. But think, who had access to your documents, your signature, your accounts?" Elena's mind flashed to boardrooms, late-night emails, the investor's smirk when he tore her contract. Her stomach twisted. "You're saying it was him?" The woman pressed her lips together. "I'm saying it wasn't random. Someone close, someone who knew the details." Before Elena could press further, the dashboard lit up with a shrill beep, tracking alert. A red dot pulsed on the GPS screen. The woman swore under her breath. "They tagged the van. We have to move." The tires squealed as she pulled back into traffic, weaving through dark streets. Elena clung to the folder, pages spilling across her lap. One sheet fluttered loose, wedged against the dashboard. She grabbed it, eyes narrowing. It wasn't just financial records, it was an email chain. Her name appeared in the CC line. The sender's name made her chest freeze. It wasn't the investor. It wasn't anyone from her company. It was a former mentor, the person who had once promised to guide her through her first pitch, the one who knew every detail of her business plan. Her voice cracked. Why would she do this? The woman's knuckles tightened on the wheel. Because sometimes the ones who teach you how to play the game never intend to let you win. The van lurched around a corner, headlights cutting through rain. Elena's heart pounded. She was on the edge of an answer, she could feel it, the truth about who had stolen her name, twisted her future, and set her up to fail. But just as she was about to press harder, the woman slammed the brakes. A black SUV blocked the road, its doors swinging open. Figures stepped out, dark silhouettes against the wet asphalt. The woman cursed. They're here for the folder. Elena clutched it tighter, fear and fury burning through her veins. She was inches from discovering the truth, but once again, the answers were ripped from her grasp, leaving only the certainty that someone she once trusted had turned into her most dangerous enemy. Rain pounded the hood of the van like a war drum as the SUV's doors slammed open. Dark figures advanced, boots splashing through puddles. The hoodie woman shoved the gear into reverse, tires screaming. Hold on, she barked. The van shot backward, fishtailing, but another SUV swung in from the alley, cutting them off. Elena's chest seized. Trapped. The woman cursed, slammed the wheel, but there was no way out. The first figure yanked open the passenger door, grabbing for the folder. Elena's fingers locked around it, refusing to let go. Give it up, the man hissed. She kicked hard, her heel slamming into his ribs. He stumbled back, just enough for the woman to hit the gas. The van lurched forward, scraping against the black SUV and squeezing through the narrowest of gaps. Metal shrieked, glass shattered, but they broke free. Elena's hands shook, her breath ragged. For the first time all night, she felt a spark of victory. She had held on. She hadn't let them take it. But the moment was short-lived. In the chaos, half the folder's contents had spilled onto the wet asphalt. She looked down in horror, the pages in her lap were incomplete, pieces missing. The woman's face was pale as she floored the gas. They got some of it. Maybe enough. Elena's stomach dropped. All that risk, and now the very proof of her sabotage might be in enemy hands. The van screeched to a stop under an overpass. Silence, except for the hammer of rain. Elena pressed her forehead to the cold window. She wanted to cry, scream, anything, but instead she forced the tears back. She couldn't break now. She sifted through the damp papers she still had. One page caught her eye, a handwritten note in the margins, not part of any official file. 3 words, ask about Harbor. Her pulse quickened. Another breadcrumb. Another door opening. Harbor, she muttered. The woman glanced at it, then shook her head. Too dangerous. Don't go near that. But Elena felt the spark ignite again. Every loss pushed her deeper, but each clue gave her just enough light to keep moving. She wasn't beaten. Not yet. As they pulled away from the overpass, Elena tucked the papers inside her jacket. The road ahead was still dark, full of shadows and enemies she couldn't name. But she had survived another night. She had kept part of the truth alive. And even as exhaustion dragged at her bones, one thought burned hotter than fear: if Harbor was the next piece, she would chase it, no matter where it led. Because she was done running. Now, she would fight. The next morning, Elena stood on the edge of Harbor Street, the word from the margin note echoing in her head. The dock stretched out before her, rusted cranes, abandoned warehouses, gulls shrieking over black water. She pulled her jacket tighter, folder pressed against her ribs. Every instinct screamed danger, but the clue left her no choice. A figure waved from the end of the pier. Elena's pulse spiked. It wasn't the hoodie woman or the suited man. This time it was someone she hadn't seen in years, her former mentor. The one whose name she had glimpsed in the forged emails. "Elena," the woman called, voice steady despite the wind. "You shouldn't be here." Anger surged. "Why is my name on documents I never signed?" The mentor didn't flinch. "Because you were useful." She turned toward the water, hands clasped behind her back. "But now you've become dangerous." Before Elena could reply, a horn blared. A container ship slid into view, massive and imposing. Workers scrambled across the deck, lowering crates. The mentor gestured toward it. "Do you see? This isn't about startups. This is about moving power, moving money. Your little company was just a door." Elena's stomach twisted. A door to what? The woman's eyes softened for just a second, as though pity slipped through. "Follow it long enough, and you'll find out why your contract had to burn." Her phone buzzed sharply. "Unknown number again, leave now. They're watching." Elena's gaze darted to the rooftops above the pier. She spotted the faint glint of a lens. Snipers? Surveillance? Whoever it was, they were locked on her. She turned back, but her mentor was already walking away, vanishing into the fog. Elena's throat tightened. Answers had been inches away, but again she was left with shadows. The hoodie woman appeared at her side, breathless. "You shouldn't have come alone." She yanked Elena toward a stairwell leading under the dock. Shots rang out, ricocheting off steel. Elena ducked, adrenaline flooding her veins. They stumbled into the dripping dark beneath the pier. Elena pressed her back to the wall, chest heaving. She admitted it, she gasped. She knew. But she wouldn't say why. The woman wiped blood from a shallow cut on her cheek. "That's because the why would destroy you before you even start." Elena shook her head, fury and desperation mingling. "Then tell me why they tore up my contract. Tell me what this is really about." But the woman's silence was louder than any gunshot. Only the echo of water under the pier filled the space. Elena clutched the folder, soaked now from the spray, and understood one thing: she was closer than ever. The truth was brushing against her fingertips. But every step closer pulled her deeper into a game where even survival was no guarantee. And somewhere above the fog, someone was pulling strings she couldn't yet see, someone who had already decided how much she was worth. The city roared around Elena, but inside she felt the silence of a countdown. Every step, every shadow seemed to whisper that the endgame was near. The folder was nearly empty now, half its pages stolen, the rest damp and torn, but its weight was heavier than ever. That night, she stood on the rooftop of an old parking structure, the skyline glowing with restless energy. The hoodie woman paced beside her, nerves raw. "You don't understand. Once you open that last door, there's no way back." "I'm already past the point of return," Elena said, voice firm though her stomach churned. She held up the one page she hadn't let go of since Harbor Street, the note scrawled with "Ask about Harbor." She flipped it over, and beneath the smear of ink another line revealed itself: Unit 47, midnight. The woman froze. "No. Not there." "Why not?" Elena pressed. "Because that's where they keep the truth locked up. And people don't walk out of Unit 47 the same." Elena's phone vibrated. A new message, a live photo. Her apartment. The lights on. The silhouette of someone moving inside. A chill cut through her spine. They weren't just tracking her, they were inside her life. Her fists clenched. "I'm done being a pawn." The hoodie woman grabbed her arm. "Then you'd better be ready to be a player. Because Unit 47 isn't just files. It's names. It's the ledger of everyone who's ever been bought, silenced, or erased. If your name's in there, she trailed off, eyes heavy with something that looked like sorrow. Lightning split the sky, the storm rolling back in. Elena stared out over the city, fury burning into resolve. She thought of every humiliation, every door slammed in her face, every whispered lie tied to her name. The storm matched her heartbeat. The woman's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then swore under her breath. They know you're coming. They're already moving the files. Elena's chest tightened. The answers she had been chasing, the truth that had been dangled in front of her like bait, it was all slipping away again. But not this time. Not tonight. We go now, she said, eyes locked on the dark horizon where the warehouses sat like waiting giants. Unit 47. The woman shook her head. Then you'd better understand something, once you cross that line, you won't just be chasing success. You'll be tearing down walls built to outlast people like us. Elena tightened her grip on the folder. Every nerve in her body screamed with fear and anticipation. She was one step from the truth, one step from the explosion that had been building since the moment that contract was torn apart. And as the storm swallowed the skyline, Elena felt it deep in her bones, the next step would change everything. Forever. Rain slashed sideways as Elena and the hoodie woman slipped into the warehouse district. Midnight. Unit 47 loomed ahead, its rusted shutters rattling in the storm. Every part of her screamed to turn back, but she had carried the weight of lies too long. Tonight she would end it, one way or another. The woman stopped, breath sharp. This is your choice. Once we're inside, there's no undoing it. Elena wiped water from her face. Then open it. The padlock snapped under a crowbar. The metal door groaned upward, revealing a cavernous space filled with shelves stacked to the ceiling. Boxes, ledgers, hard drives. The heartbeat of a machine built on secrecy. At the center sat the suited man, waiting at a table. Calm, as if he'd been expecting her all along. You made it, he said, voice carrying above the thunder. Few ever do. Elena slammed the folder onto the table. Why my name? Why the contracts, the debts, the sabotage? He leaned back, unbothered. Because you were clean. Untouched. Ambitious, but desperate enough that no one would question a sudden collapse. You were the perfect cover. He tapped a ledger. Money flowed through your company to ports, to accounts offshore. You weren't supposed to notice. Her stomach twisted. All those sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the humiliations, it had never been about her failure. She had been chosen to fail. And my mentor? Elena's voice cracked. The man's smile thinned. She trained you for this. She gave you the skills, and then sold you as a shield. Every student is an investment. You were simply the one who cashed out. Elena staggered back, the betrayal burning hotter than the storm. But the woman beside her whispered fiercely, "Look closer." Elena's eyes scanned the shelves. Names filled the ledgers, founders, dreamers, visionaries. Each one had been broken, erased, replaced. Dozens, maybe hundreds. She wasn't alone. She was part of a pattern. The suited man shrugged. Some call it survival. We call it control. Her hands trembled, but her voice rose steady. No. You call it power. I call it theft. She ripped open her folder, scattering the remaining pages across the table. Rain dripped from the roof, smearing ink, but the truth was there, dates, signatures, trails of stolen dreams. She snapped photos, one after another, her phone buzzing as each image uploaded. The man's calm cracked. What are you doing? Ending it, Elena said. If I was the perfect cover, then I'll be the perfect witness. The world will know. Shouts echoed outside, black SUVs pulling up, men pouring in. The hoodie woman shoved a flash drive into Elena's hand. "Go. You've got the evidence." But Elena didn't run. She stood tall, rain cascading, eyes locked on the man who thought he owned her story. "You tried to erase me. Instead, you made me stronger. You taught me that failure isn't the end, it's the weapon." For the first time, he looked afraid. Doors burst open, chaos surged, but Elena moved through it with fire in her veins. Sirens blared in the distance, police, maybe tipped off by the uploads. She didn't care anymore. She had faced the truth, and she had chosen to fight. By dawn, the storm had broken. Headlines lit up her phone, massive financial network exposed. Whistleblower emerges. Her name was no longer chained to forged debts, it was tied to courage. She stood on the pier, exhausted but unbroken. Every lie, every betrayal, every door slammed in her face had led here. And now, with the truth out, she wasn't just surviving. She was free. Her voice was quiet but steady as the sun rose. "They thought they could bury me. They didn't realize, I was the seed.